He was handsome, intelligent, articulate, polite. The type of man who could win your trust in minutes. He wore a suit, spoke with elegance, and looked more like a lawyer or a politician than a murderer. But behind those charming eyes, there was something else, a darkness, a hunger, a monster wearing the face of a gentleman. His name was Ted Bundy, one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. Between 1974 and 1978, Bundy kidnapped, tortured, sexually assaulted, and murdered dozens of young women across multiple states. The official number stands at 30, but many investigators believe the real count could be over 100. For years, he fooled everyone, his friends, his co-workers, even his girlfriend. He attended law school. He worked at a crisis hotline center, helping vulnerable women. He was active in local politics. He looked normal. He sounded normal. But Ted Bundy was anything but normal. This is his story. Ted Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. But his beginnings were not ordinary. He was born in a home for unwed mothers. He never knew his real father. For the first few years of his life, he was raised by his grandparents. But Ted grew up believing they were his real parents. His biological mother, Louise, was introduced to him as his sister. Think about that. A child growing up in a family built on lies, a false identity, a fake background, and secrets kept hidden from him. Some psychologists believe this early identity confusion shaped the twisted personality he would later become. As he grew older, he became intelligent, quiet, and emotionally distant. He wasn't violent, not yet, but he was different. He watched people, not with curiosity, but with calculation. When Ted Bundy was a teenager, something began to change. He became obsessed with violent crime stories, especially those involving sexual assault. He spent hours reading detective magazines, studying pictures of crime scenes, and imagining himself inside those scenarios. He later admitted, in rare interviews, that he discovered something dark within himself, a fascination with power, suffering, and control. But outside, he looked perfectly normal. He was polite, soft-spoken, well-dressed. Society has a dangerous weakness. We trust people who look good. Ted Bundy understood this very well. In college, Bundy studied psychology. He learned how thought works, how emotion works, how manipulation works. But he didn't learn it to help others. He learned it to use on others. During this time, he began dating a woman known as Stephanie Brooks. Not her real name, but that's what most books call her. She was wealthy, elegant, and well-educated. She represented the kind of life Bundy wanted: status, perfection, admiration. But things did not last. Stephanie eventually broke up with him, calling him immature, unstable, and unclear about his direction in life. This breakup destroyed Ted Bundy emotionally. For most people, heartbreak heals over time. But for Bundy, it turned into something darker, a desire to prove himself, a desire to punish. He became obsessed with Stephanie, not with love, but with revenge. He reinvented himself. He became confident, polished, socially active, and successful. He worked in politics. He interacted with state officials. He even met the governor of Washington. Bundy then carefully re-entered Stephanie's life And this time, he was the perfect gentleman. Charming, ambitious, and loving. She fell for him again. Then one day, without a word, he disappeared from her life. No explanation, no closure. He had used her emotionally just to prove he could win her back. Then he abandoned her, the same way she once abandoned him. Psychologists later said this moment was key. Ted Bundy discovered a new type of pleasure: manipulation, control, power, psychological punishment. But soon, emotional manipulation would no longer be enough. By 1974, something inside Ted Bundy snapped. He moved to Seattle. He lived a normal life on the outside, dating, working, smiling. But on the inside, the monster had awakened. He began driving around at night, watching women walk alone, practicing how to approach them, planning conversations, planning tricks. He discovered his greatest weapon: his appearance. He didn't look dangerous. He looked trustworthy. That was his camouflage. January 1974. The monster finally struck. A female college student named Karen left her dorm around midnight. She went to the bathroom and never came back. Bundy had broken into the dorm, attacked her while she slept. He bludgeoned her brutally and sexually assaulted her. She survived, but suffered permanent brain damage. This was only the beginning. Just 1 month later, he attacked another woman, this time from behind. He hit her with a metal rod, dragged her to a different location, and assaulted her. She died from her injuries. For the first time, Ted Bundy had killed. And now, he could not stop. Over the next few months, women began disappearing in Washington state. What made Bundy different from many killers was his method. He didn't attack with violence first. He approached politely. He pretended to be injured, sometimes wearing a fake cast or using crutches, and asked for help carrying books or loading items into his car. His car was a Volkswagen Beetle, small, non-threatening, and innocent-looking. Women felt sorry for him. They trusted him. They didn't know they were walking voluntarily into a trap. Once near his car, he would quickly strike, hitting them with a crowbar, handcuffing them, or simply pushing them inside. And then he drove away. By summer 1974, 6 young women had gone missing. Nobody knew who was taking them. Witnesses described a charming man, well-dressed, often wearing his arm in a cast. He told them his name was Ted. The police had no idea they were being hunted by a man who worked next door, who attended Sunday dinners with friends, who studied psychology, who volunteered at a crisis hotline center. Think about that. Ted Bundy, a serial killer, worked at a suicide prevention center, helping vulnerable women. One of his co-workers later said, Ted saved lives during the day and took lives at night. Bundy's attacks became more frequent, more brutal, more confident. He stopped hiding bodies. He started visiting crime scenes after death. The killings were no longer only about violence or death, they were about control. He kept trophies. He manipulated victims even after death. He posed them, spoke to them, photographed them. One FBI agent said, "Ted Bundy didn't kill just to kill. He wanted to own his victims physically, mentally, and emotionally." But Bundy didn't just kill. He studied how he was being investigated. He followed news reports. He read articles about his own crimes. He knew how detectives thought. He knew how to avoid them. He was building something rare, a serial killer who understood the mind of the police. He adjusted his tactics. He changed cars. He changed states. He changed appearance. He became a ghost. By late 1974, Bundy moved to Utah, and the kill.
By late 1974, Bundy moved to Utah, and the killings followed. Women began disappearing there, just like in Washington. But this time, something changed. He made a mistake. In November 1974, he attempted to abduct a young woman named Carol Duranche. He used his police impersonation trick, telling her that her car was broken into and she needed to come with him for safety. She got into his car, but she noticed something was wrong. There was no badge, no real police jacket, no radio. She panicked. He attacked, but she fought back harder than any other victim before. She escaped the car, ran for help, and lived. This was Ted Bundy's first major failure. She gave a description to police. They began looking for a Volkswagen Beetle. Their first suspect? Ted Bundy. A charming law student, good-looking, well-spoken, politically active. Police didn't believe he was dangerous. He was even invited into the police station for questioning. No arrest. They let him go. But how long could Bundy keep hiding? He was now killing in multiple states: Washington, Oregon, Utah, Colorado, and possibly California. Bodies were discovered, but identities remained unknown for months. Police struggled to link the cases. They didn't realize they were dealing with one man, a man who kept getting better at killing. And so, the monster continued. Ted Bundy was just getting started. By late 1975, police across multiple states were now dealing with a disturbing pattern of missing young women, vanishing without screams, without struggle, without witnesses. The only clues? A man named Ted, a beige Volkswagen Beetle, a fake cast, a charming smile. For months, Bundy managed to stay ahead of investigators. He read the news, watched the headlines, studied the police response. He understood one frightening truth. Police departments do not easily share information across state lines. Ted Bundy was not just a killer, he was a strategist. But fate was catching up. One evening, a highway patrol officer in Utah noticed a suspicious Volkswagen driving slowly through a residential neighborhood, headlights off. When the officer pulled the car over, he found strange items inside: a ski mask, a crowbar, handcuffs, rope, an ice pick, trash bags, a flashlight with the bulb removed, what looked like a murder kit. The officer arrested the driver. The driver was Ted Bundy. But Bundy remained calm, charming, and strangely confident. He claimed it was all a misunderstanding. He said the items were for skiing, camping, home repairs. His charisma was disarming. Police didn't even have enough evidence to charge him with murder, so they let him go. But now, Ted Bundy was officially on their radar. Police searched deeper into Ted's life. They interviewed his ex-girlfriend, Elizabeth. She had begun to suspect him for months. She showed them strange things: his sudden disappearances, his fascination with news about missing women, his debt problems, his secret side no one knew. She told police, "I think Ted might be involved in these disappearances." That was the moment police began to truly consider Bundy. Detectives now had a suspect, but no body, no murder weapon, and no direct witness. But Ted Bundy had two major weaknesses. He liked control, and he liked attention. He could not stay hidden for long. 1976, a young woman from Utah, Carol Duranch, the one who escaped Bundy's car, bravely came forward. She identified Bundy in a police lineup. This time, there was no escape. Ted Bundy was officially arrested and charged with kidnapping and attempted assault. He was sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison. For the first time in his life, Ted Bundy was behind bars. But the story was far from over. Because Ted Bundy was not like other criminals. He was intelligent, unpredictable, manipulative, and extremely patient. Even in prison, he planned his next move.
Police continued investigating him for the murders in Washington, Oregon, and Utah. They believed he was responsible, but still had no concrete evidence. But then, something big happened. While in prison, Ted Bundy was charged with the murder of Karen Campbell, a nurse who disappeared from a hotel hallway in Colorado. This was huge. Now Bundy was not just a kidnapper. He was a murder suspect. He was transferred to Aspen, Colorado, to stand trial. But Bundy had other plans. He began studying law books. He insisted on defending himself in court. This decision gave him something powerful: access to the courthouse law library, a room with no guards, no security, and an open second-floor window. What happened next shocked America. On June 7, 1977, Ted Bundy walked into the law library for legal preparation. He waited, observed, listened, and when no one was looking, he jumped out of the window. Just like that, he escaped. He ran into the mountains, hiking, hiding, surviving on stolen clothes and stolen food. For 6 days, police could not find him. Eventually, he was recaptured, tired and hungry. But Bundy wasn't done. He was planning something much bigger. December 30th, 1977. The second escape. This time, Bundy had spent months secretly losing weight. He discovered a small gap in the light fixture inside his cell. He widened it carefully, slowly, over time. And one night, he squeezed through that hole, climbed into the ceiling, and emerged into the jailer's closet. He changed into stolen guard clothes, walked right out the front door, and disappeared. This time, he wouldn't be captured in 6 days. This time, he vanished for 47 days. During those days, Ted Bundy traveled thousands of miles to Florida. He changed his name, shaved his beard, and dressed differently. He looked like a different man. He began a new life. He tried getting jobs, even considered settling in. But Ted Bundy could not remain Ted Bundy without doing what Ted Bundy did. The monster inside him was starving, and Florida would experience his most brutal killings yet. January 15th, 1978, Florida State University. It was 2:45 a.m. In the Chi Omega sorority house, most students were asleep. He broke in quietly. He didn't know the women. He didn't care who they were. What followed was one of the most brutal sorority attacks in American history. In just 15 minutes, he killed 2 women, bludgeoned 2 more, assaulted another, and escaped before anyone realized what had happened. Police were shocked by the brutality. The scene was chaotic, violent, and almost surreal. This was not the careful, calculated Bundy from Washington. This was something else. Something more reckless, more savage, more desperate. But Ted Bundy was not finished. Just 3 weeks later, he kidnapped and murdered a 12-year-old girl named Kimberly Leach. This time, he left behind too much evidence. His disguise was failing. His sanity was worsening. The walls were closing in. February 15th, 1978. Pensacola, Florida. A police officer stopped a suspicious car near the highway. When he asked the driver for ID, the man said, "I think you've got me." It was Ted Bundy. The long hunt was finally over. Or was it just beginning? Because the world had caught Ted Bundy. But now, Ted Bundy was about to talk. He was about to represent himself in court. He was about to face America, with cameras watching. Once Ted Bundy was captured in Florida, the entire world was watching. He was no longer just a suspect. He was now the face of American evil. But Ted Bundy didn't hide from it. He embraced it. He loved the cameras. He loved the interviews. He loved seeing his name in the newspapers. He was not afraid of court. In fact, Ted Bundy turned his murder trial into a stage. When Bundy appeared in court for the Chi Omega murders, something unusual happened. He walked in, smiling, wearing a suit, calm, confident. The courtroom wasn't silent. It was buzzing. People whispered. Some gasped. Reporters wrote, "He didn't look like a killer. He looked like a lawyer." Why? Because Ted Bundy had chosen to represent himself in court. This was unheard of. A serial killer defending himself in a capital murder trial. He cross-examined witnesses, argued with judges, played legal tricks. At one point, he stood from his seat, turned toward the cameras, and proposed to his girlfriend right in the courtroom. Yes, during the trial, facing the death penalty, he proposed to a woman, and she said yes. Why did he do that? One reason, Florida law stated that if a marriage proposal is made in court before a judge and accepted, it becomes legally binding. He didn't just want to charm a woman. He wanted to show power. He wanted to prove he was smarter than everyone else, that he could manipulate anyone, even in a murder trial. But his charm could not hide the truth. Evidence was building. Bite marks on Lisa Levy's body matched Bundy's teeth perfectly. Fibers from his car linked him to multiple victims. He had been seen near the Chi Omega house, and his fingerprints were found. No more escape. The jury took just 7 hours to find him guilty. He was sentenced to death in the electric chair. But Ted Bundy was not done. He appealed and appealed again and again. Years passed. While on death row, he did something unexpected. He started talking. He began giving interviews, not to confess, but to analyze himself. He spoke like a psychologist, calm, distant, unemotional, as if the murders were just case studies. He talked about the killer mind. He talked about compulsion, control, sadistic power, the need to own another person completely. He used words like possession, domination, total control. He said murder is not about lust. It's about possession. They are part of you forever. No pity, no remorse, only chilling self-analysis.
Over time, he began confessing, not because he felt guilty, but because he wanted to stay alive. He offered information, names, locations, in exchange for delaying his execution. He spoke of bodies dumped in forests, mountains, rivers. He described returning to the bodies long after death. He described preserving them, visiting them, talking to them, sometimes washing their hair or applying makeup to them. He admitted possession. It was all about possession. These weren't killings. They were acquisitions. These last words revealed the truth about Bundy. He didn't kill because he was angry. He didn't kill because he was insane. He killed because he wanted to own people completely, even after death. Psychologists eventually classified Bundy as a high-functioning psychopath. He was not insane. He knew exactly what he was doing. He could feel fear, but not guilt. He could mimic empathy, but never feel it. He could analyze emotions, but never experience them. He was empty, but intelligent enough to pretend otherwise. By 1988, Ted Bundy ran out of appeals. The final date was set, January 24th, 1989. Thousands of people gathered outside the prison, chanting, "Burn, Bundy, burn!" Some brought signs, some celebrated, some cried, some were simply curious. For the first time, the world saw something rare. People cheering for an execution. Inside the prison, Bundy spent his final hours talking to pastors, FBI agents, and psychologists, still trying until the very last moment to hold power. Then, at 7:16 a.m., he was led to the electric chair. He looked calm, no fear, no apology. His last words were, "Give my love to my family and friends." A mask was placed over his face. Seconds later, 18,000 volts of electricity surged into him. At 7:26 a.m., Ted Bundy was pronounced dead. Outside the prison, crowds erupted in applause. Some danced. Some fired fireworks into the sky. Some held signs that read, "Death to Ted." The world was relieved. But was it over? Did Ted Bundy truly die that day? Yes, his body died, but his story became immortal. Books, movies, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, crime analysis, FBI case studies. Even today, Ted Bundy remains one of the most studied serial killers in history. Why? Because Bundy was different. He wasn't a monster on the outside. He was handsome, polite, educated, well-dressed. He didn't fit the image of evil. He redefined it. He showed the world something terrifying. Evil doesn't always look dangerous. Sometimes it looks charming. Ted Bundy used charm like a weapon. He used kindness as camouflage. He used empathy as bait. He didn't hunt in the darkness. He hunted in plain sight. And that is what makes him one of the most disturbing serial killers in history. Not because he was monstrous, but because he wasn't. Evil does not always come with scars or blood or rage. Sometimes it smiles, wears a suit, offers help, makes you feel safe. Ted Bundy was not only a killer, he was a warning.